Yeah, hi. Sorry for, it looks like there was a program. I'd like to thank all of you for joining this panel discussion, which is focused on the promises, opportunities and challenges of open science and tech in Africa. And we have amazing panelists to support us, have a wonderful discussion. So we know that open science and technology, when well harnessed, has the potential to transform research and innovation, and also positively influence sustainable development, especially in Africa, where we have significant capacity gaps, logistic gaps, and access to carry out science and innovation. We realize that the open approach to research and innovation is very important to drive us forward. So the goal of this panel is to explore the opportunities and challenges that we have through the perspectives of our wonderful invited panelists who are experts and practitioners in this field. So we have three panelists. We have Harry Akligoh, who is the co-founder of Hive Biolab in Kumasi, Ghana. We have Obasegun Ayodele, who is a co-founder and CTO of Vilsquare in Nigeria. Oba also happens to be one of the beneficiaries of the Open COVID-19 initiative. We have Joy Owango, who is a co-founder as well as director of the Training Center in Communication in Nairobi, Kenya. So thank you very much and for availing yourself to this panel. So I'll go straight to my first question. My first question is to basically give you all the opportunity to introduce yourselves. Tell us more about what you're doing in terms of open science and tech in Africa. I'm going to start with Joy.
Thank you, Gameli. Hello, everyone. I'm the Executive Director of the Training Center in Communication. We are based at the University of Nairobi. It's the leading research producer in East Africa, and we are housed by the College of Biological and Physical Sciences. Now, what we do as a center in the last 15 years has been supporting researchers, institutes, and governments on improving their research output and increasing their visibility through scholarly communication training. And it's through this training that we got by default into open access, because when you're training researchers to improve their output, one of the things we notice is that they could not even access some of the resources to produce good quality research. So we got actively involved in open access and open science to support not only the researchers, but also guide governments, guide institutes on best practice on open access adoption, guide governments on open science policy so that they can support their academic community. Thank you.
Awesome. Then we move to Harry.
Okay, so as Tamara rightly introduced, I'm one of the co-founders of the Hive Biolab, which is a community biotechnology laboratory based in Ghana, situated inside Kumasi Hive, which is a tech and innovation space, promoting the rapid prototyping of ideas and helping scale entrepreneurship within the local context, and then priming solutions using young people as a catalyst for change in Ghana. I would say that we have been working at the intersection of innovation, biology, and entrepreneurship, particularly from the point of Hive Biolab point of view, as a way of leveraging the biological commons that exist in providing solutions that we face to challenges in our community. We are currently actively exploiting the use of the biological commons that exist in biotechnology to produce enzymes locally to augment the ailing supply chains that we have among researchers and educators in Ghana, so that way we are able to provide the needed tools and technologies that are needed to enable the works that they do. We also have been seeing how we can augment the instrument challenges that we have for conducting research and education by leveraging largely the open science hardware principles to build and also document openly some of the principles underlying the manufacture of this hardware locally, so that other people within the community can use and then contextualize these blueprints for their own use. We also, through what we have been doing, also develop open educational resources to train the next generation of entrepreneurs and also scientists to be at par with what is happening globally. So I would say that these are the forefronts, these are the things that we have been doing in the domains of open science hardware, and also biohacking as a way of creating sustainable solutions that are critical to overcoming challenges. I would want to end by saying that currently one project we are involved in is with regards to the JOGL Africa, one of the initiatives called the AMR project, where we want to solve the AMR challenges in Africa using digitalization and also open educational resources. So I would say those are the things we and myself and others are working on. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Harry. Over to you, Oba.
Hello, thank you, everyone. I'm Obasegun Ayodele, and the co-founder and CTO for Vilsquare. We're a research and development center based out of Nigeria. And our main goal is to see how we can apply open science and technology principles, technologies, projects in local context for Nigeria and across Africa. So we quickly realized over 2-3 years ago that we had so many resources, open science resources, documented on GitHub, documented, across the we also had some of the problems that sometimes overlap with these solutions. And so what we told ourselves, is it possible to find ways we can contextualize them for local problems within Nigeria and across Africa. And we started doing this last year with the Volt microscope, which is targeted towards healthcare and education, to be able to empower universities, high schools, research centers for government to be able to do biological research at low cost. So providing them low cost microscopes to use in their labs. And this was built out of we taking an open source, open science related microscope and retooling it for contextualized use in Nigeria. Another thing is which the JOGL platform is our key supporter on that, which is the Volt School, where we're providing digital resources to empower learning in the educational concept for high schools. It has also been key for us to apply open science in this context, where we're taking Moodle, which is more or less like an open source MOOCs resource or tool, and contextualizing all that, enhancing where we need to enhance, build new tools and new sections that plug into this platform to contextualize that solution across Africa. So far, I hope that on the long run, with these different solutions which we're preferring for Africa, we'll be able to improve the output research coming out of Africa, and in total contribute to global research and improvement of Africans. And so that's basically what we do in a nutshell.
Yeah, thank you, Joy, Harry, and Oba. You've all actually powerfully articulated why open science and tech, it's important in the African context. My next question goes to Joy. Joy, you've been working in science communication as well as open access for many years now. Looking at all these years and all the experiences you've built, how has the landscape changed over the years in terms of open science?
Sorry, before we look at how the landscape has changed, we need to know what triggered it. And it was triggered in 2016 when the fourth Codesria Conference on Electronic Publishing, titled The Open Access Movement and the Future of Africa's Knowledge Economy, and UNESCO and the Latin America Social Council Science came together, and they realized that the Global South was suffering in regards to accessing research information, and also was producing poor scholarly outputs, and there was a need to go the open access route. And what they noted was that there was a significant need to improve scholarly communication, and there was inadequate levels of awareness on understanding on the benefits of open access in the Global South. And also there was insufficient infrastructure and funding support, as well as the incentives that come with open access. So when you look at that history, you need to understand where we came from through to where we are right now. So that was in 2016 when this declaration was made at the conference in the Codesria conference in Senegal. Now, over the years, we have had open science tech hubs coming up, like we're seeing what Vilsquare is doing. We've had preprint repositories, a preprint repository being set up. We have Africa Archive, which is Africa's only preprint repository. I sit on the board of that repository. And the beauty of that is that it has not only helped in increasing research visibility coming out of the continent, but it has also started collating research done in local language. You need to understand how important this is from a Global South perspective, where English is not necessarily the language of science. I mean, English being the language of science is not necessarily being used in writing research work. So in countries where their national language is not necessarily English, like in Nigeria or Ethiopia or Rwanda, even South Africa with Afrikaans, you'll find that there are some papers that are written in their national language, which happens to be their local language. Even Tanzania with Swahili. Or if you look at Africa with the breadth and scope it has in terms of languages, it is broken down into African Union languages, and you'll still find very low output coming out of the continent because it's not in English. So what does that mean for us from an open science perspective? When over the years, we've seen an increase in research visibility coming out of the continent, thanks to open science infrastructures like Africa Archive. Okay, so we are also seeing international partners indexing African research output with African research output within their indexing databases. Some of the most recent wins are the indexing of the African journals online in the open access platform, international platform known as Dimensions, which is a citation database. And you can literally see that not only are you getting all the output that is already within African Journal Online, expanding at a global level, but you can also now get more analytical information of how African researchers are performing. This is such a big step for us, especially when you look at it from a scholarly communication perspective, when you look at it from a African research output perspective, and an African research visibility perspective. So when you look at where we were and where we are right now, we've taken advantage of open science to help in increasing our research visibility and also increasing our research output. However, there have been some challenges. The increased awareness needs to continue, because in the entire continent, there's only one country that has an open access policy, and that is Ethiopia. Granted, there are other there are supranationals or regional partners that are trying to create an open access policy, like the East African Science Technology Organization, which is the umbrella body for all research councils in East Africa. They're creating an open access policy, which is going to be launched soon. But so far, we only have one country in Africa. So there's still work needs to be done, but we are looking at steps being made despite the challenges we've had. And looking at where we started in 2016, it's been 5 years and quite a bit has been done in terms of adopting open access, adopting open science, and trying to make use of the infrastructures that we have despite the challenges that come with them.
Yeah, thank you very much, Joy. My next question goes to Harry. Harry, Joy has spoken very passionately about open access and accessibility to research in Africa. Looking at the evolution that she highlighted, how does that compare to, for example, the do-it-yourself biology movement, the open hardware movement? And what do you think are some of the main opportunities for Africans? Harry?
Yeah, so just like Joy has rightly mentioned, there is always a trigger when it comes to any solution or any set of action. And it is no different from what is happening currently on the global stage, which is trickling down to underrepresented backgrounds or very marginalized backgrounds that are not actively contributing to such discourses or engaging in these areas, particularly to mention DIY biology or open science hardware. And I think it is just really unfortunate to mention that though those two areas of open science really hold great promises, it is still a very burdened initiative or disciplines on the continent. However, there are a lot of hopes currently with the fact that we have had a number of organizations or initiatives that are springing up to make use of these new ways of doing science or doing things to solve problems. With regards to DIY biology, I mean, it is more of a concept and an approach to doing science rather than a discipline. And most often than not, I mean, a culture is usually a way of life and how people think. So that way of life and thinking, it is something that is still growing on the continent. And I think in times like this, where we had the world being put to a particular test, that is where we are seeing the exponential ways of how people can do research openly, and how just this mindset and culture of doing research and building your own hardware to overcome the inequalities that exist in accessing some of these things are coming into the limelight. And I would say currently there are a number of initiatives that are putting us to a test in making use of this way of doing things in Africa. And I think a typical example is with COVID, especially with COVID diagnostics. Majority of the inventions or discoveries that are happening right now with diagnostic development are based on what we call the open source reagents, which became a really critical need because of the disruption in global supply chain. And unfortunately, some of these technologies are very difficult to do within our context. So we are currently leveraging and making use of them because the blueprints or the genetic codes underlining these open source reagents are made openly available, or majority of them have become a public domain knowledge. And for that reason, people are exploiting it, making it available to researchers in Africa, and they are making good use of them in locally manufacturing these reagents and then implementing them as part of molecular diagnostic tests, while others are putting them to good use. And I think this is just a case in point, a very beautiful case in point of how the African is making and benefiting from an open technology and how we are using it to solve problems. And for that reason, I see what is happening as a really interesting phenomenon where backgrounds that are not involved in the development, however, are still at a vantage point of making use of it and really understanding how they can also contribute back to it. However, there are still a lot of challenges that comes to doing this way or generally in any community. Yeah, so in any community where there is a new way of doing things, there is always a resistance. And as such, we are going to see a lot of resistance in how to implement these new ways of doing things with DIY biology and open science hardware, especially when we have a lot of competition. And I see this happening, especially with the traditional systems, the academic institutions who have already proven into the quality and efficiency of or efficacy of the things that are being produced openly and testing that model of doing things. I would say that these are some of the challenges that we would have to, unfortunately, battle with. But at the end of the day, good documentation and the outcomes of these things will go a long way to actually validating them for use and then normalizing this culture of doing things within our communities. So I would say that is where we have started from with regards to DIY biology, open science hardware, the challenges we are facing, and then the hopes or the gains we stand to make out of it in the long run.
Okay, thank you very much, Harry. So I'm naturally going to go to Oban next. My question is that, do you see any open science research opportunities that are unique to Africa interested in these fields should be looking at?
Okay, do I see any open science research that we should be interested in? No, I didn't get that very well.
Yeah, I was asking that what are some of the open science and research opportunities that are unique to Africa, and what are some of the hot areas or the hot topics that researchers, innovators, and activists interested in this area should be looking at?
Okay, yes. So I'll start with a start. So there's a start we came up, we found out last year. We realized 12.5% of the African population makes up, the whole world. And 12.5% of the world population is the Africans rather, and we contribute less than 1%, to global research. Within that space, you can see where the gap is. The opportunities lie where the gap is. And one of those opportunities is us improving, output research. When we were at African OSH in 2019, I think, in Tanzania, right? There was something I realized. I realized that it's not that we're not doing research. It's not that we're not churning out so much local grassroots, research. It's that we're not communicating it properly. So for example, take the spices research that goes on in Tanzania. Tanzania has, some of the amazing, spices that are being exported every year across the globe. And we don't capture that. It's not documented anywhere on any research platform. It's more or less like something that is going on informally, like a trade that I just passed on from one generation to the next. But that's research. That's something that should be protected. That's something that should be documented. That's something that should be on a platform like Africa Archive. So where the opportunity lies is in communication. We need to understand understand what kind of research are we doing in local contexts across Africa, find a way at which we can, collate all this on a single platform that can easily be accessible and replicatable across the continent or even outside the continent. So take, for example, the work that the Bioeconomy Lab is doing, Harry and Jenny and across the Cambridge whole fund. That's very important. That's a great opportunity for us, where we're able to take, research that is being done oceans across, the shores of Africa, and we're able to replicate that in local biology labs, in Africa. And that's where we start thinking about what we can do. So I take, for example, the Volt microscope, because for us, we've learned so much from that. We've seen how we're able to take, open science and hardware, technology from miles and miles and thousands of miles away from, from Africa, and bring it in and contextualize it, refine it, create manuals that are done in local context. So they have local language manuals that people can easily interface with, and use in their own local labs. And we've seen how this little, tool to us is a great tool to so many researchers across Nigeria. And so I think where the opportunities lie are hugely in how we're able to replicate technology that is out there for free, open. The work has been done. Developing countries like in Africa can easily take this and help their communities. Right now, we're not chasing for, money. That's not what we're chasing for. We're chasing to improve the livelihoods across the African continent. That's what we're chasing for. Because if I am able to replicate, for example, an open source microscope from Europe or from anywhere outside Africa in my own local context, and I'm able to empower a young scientist who is trying to do, biological research for even just simple as diagnostics, for example, maybe just be able to diagnose basic ailments, or symptoms or things like that. And I'm able to empower that person in my own local context. Just imagine the impact that would have on the GDP growth of that country, the national security of that country, the research output coming out of that country, and even the confidence of that country. I have seen opportunities like the Volt microscope, where people see the Volt microscope and they just be like, wow, we were able to do this in Nigeria. And just knowing that alone was enough confidence for them to say, yes, I can do X, Y thing. We can actually invest in research in Nigeria. We can actually, so many other opportunities in Nigeria. So when we look at the opportunities, it's spread across. I can't say, oh, it's in this field, it's in that. No, but what I think strongly is that we should try to document research that is going on grassroots. We should support platforms that are trying to document those research, and then see how we can, replicate to contextual applications that can be used in our local, context. So that's what I think, and that's where I think the opportunities lie, and that's where Vilsquare is really, really racing to achieve, to support all those infrastructures. That the JOGL platform is a great platform for us to see that grow, where we can have researchers from across the world come up with initiatives, with solutions that we never even in our minds would imagine to even to venture into. And then we can work collaboratively in these teams and be able to see how, if it works in France, how can it work in Nigeria? How can it work in Ghana? How can it work in Kenya? And things like that. And from there, we take it forward to, other innovations.
I mean, I just need to add on top of what Oba has said. Yes, we are over 1.3 billion and 0.1% of our research is visible. And I can assure you what is helping us now increase our visibility and our contribution to the academic community is open science. And when I had talked about how now our existing platforms are being re-indexed in international platforms. It means that our work is seen at a global level, beyond the Pan-African level. If you're familiar with the African Journals Online, it is a bibliographic database that collates African journals, and so far it has collated 536 journals from Africa, and there are about 300 on standby that need to be collated. But for the longest time, since 1998, that database was only accessible within the continent, unless maybe you went to the website. And thanks to open science and making platforms today interoperable and far more accessible, now it has been indexed in dimensions. So it has given it a larger audience, and you can get all the output coming out of the continent of researchers who've published in good quality journals through through dimensions, complete with analytical information. This is something we never had before. You can go by institute, literally every institute, and see how did these researchers perform. And then also within the same platform, now there's an aggregation just for the Association of African Universities. All university members in the continent who have joined the Association of African Universities, all their research output is aggregated as one research group. So you're looking at over 802,536 publications, and you can get data sets, you can get granting information, patents, and even policy documents. Now this is being seen at a global level. We never had these opportunities before. So if you're looking at the opportunities that have come out of open science between 2016 and now, and this is as recent as last year and today, there's quite a bit we are trying to take on with both hands, because we know the benefit is to help increase the visibility of the research coming out of the continent. Gameli?
Yeah, very well. So it looks like based on what we've said, visibility is a big challenge. In addition to the usual ones that we point out, like lack of funding or lack of infrastructure, etc., looks like how we convey the kind of research that's happening on the continent to the wider world. It's also another important challenge that we should be looking to. And just to connect what's happening in the bigger global picture, we have Juliet, who is keen to share some experiences from the West. So I'll give it up.
Yes, good
evening.
Some
quick words.
Yes, I've been actually listening to you very carefully. And I say to myself, I have to say something. My colleague Odile François is there as well. It's the first time we are participating in JOGL. And when you talk about visibility and access to open science, we are right inside this problem as well. We are in Martinique, we are based in Martinique. In fact, I am a professor in biology and the head of a research group called Biolab. And also I'm the president of an association called Aribio. This association is a research association to sustain our research. I have to tell you, it's very difficult nowadays to do research in France because we have less money. It's very competitive. But more or less, us, we are far away. We are 7,000 away from the continent. And our research is not always put in evidence. We have a lot of problems to get things published. And even when you are doing very good research, because even our group, we have actually a patent, international patent on the fruit, on the guayava fruit, pure guayava fruit juice. And this is the first one in the world. And even so, we have a lot of difficulties actually to have funds and to get visibility. So our research topics is on marine and plant biodiversity. And this is something maybe even in Africa, this is something that we have to put a lot of effort, because tropical plants and tropical fruits are not actually really well known, and they are full of micronutrients and they can be used for medicine. So this is one of the area where we are actually putting our effort. And also we are dealing also with some problem on the social science, particularly because of our environment, because we are an island and we have a lot of difficulties with pollution, with volcanoes and everything. And obviously you have to take that into account to help the population to understand what is happening. So when Odile went to France a few years, maybe 1 or 2 years back, she heard about this JOGL, and we find out that it was really what we needed, because in the island it's small, but it's full of ideas. And I can understand really what all of you have been talking about. Ideas are there. So it's just a question of to go across, to cross the road and to meet the population. And you can try, because some of them are empiric ideas, you know, they are ideas, but they have not been able to put them in practice. And that's normal because they are not scientists. So it's us with the community that we will be able actually to put forward science. And that's the way forward. According to us, the way forward is to get out of the lab, go inside the community, see what is there, and get the community to understand what we are doing. So this is something this is a link. This is something we have to do together. And in fact, a long time ago, when my research group Biosquare has actually put some
we are running out of time due to
yes, I'm going to finish.
So yeah, please.
Yes. So what I'm saying is, this idea, we had this idea a long time ago, and we are very happy to see today that a lot of people think about that like that. So we will be happy actually to come to the next JOGL in Africa. You say this is something that's going to arrive in a few days' time. And we'll be happy to communicate also on what we have been doing. So that was I wanted to say. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much, Juliet, for taking an initiative. I'd like to thank all of our panelists as well. You've given us some great words. You said, get out of the lab, go into the community and make impact, very important. I'd like to thank our panelists, Joy Owango from TCC Africa, Harry Akligoh from the Hive Biolab, Obasegun Ayodele from Vilsquare in Nigeria. It's been a very interesting discussion. We'll continue these types of interactions through our JOGL Africa events that will be happening. Thank you very much, and let's all head back to the main session.